Welcome back, dear friends, to the Crimson Academy's course on the Kitab-i-Iqan. In this section, dear friends, we're covering paragraphs 276 through 279 of the Kitab-i-Iqan. Here, Baha'u'llah requests the Baha'i community not to mistreat the promised one of the Bab, he whom God shall make manifest, and not to inflict upon him what was inflicted upon the Bab. He also describes what he has suffered at the hands of two specific people, to the extent that he retired to Kurdistan for 2 years. One objective of his retirement was to avoid becoming a subject of discord among the faithful, a source of disturbance unto his companions, and the means of injury to any soul, or the cause of sorrow to any heart. Dear friends, we're going to share with you 5 key points from these paragraphs. The first key point is His Holiness Baha'u'llah counsels the Babis not to mistreat the promised one of the Bab, he whom God shall make manifest at the time of Mustaghas. The next key point, His Holiness Baha'u'llah anticipated opposition against the one designated as he whom God shall make manifest, in particular from 2 specific individuals suggested to be Sayyid Muhammad Isfahani and Mirza Yahya, the half-brother of Baha'u'llah. Next key point, the rising prestige of Baha'u'llah distressed Mirza Yahya and created in him a deep feeling of jealousy towards his brother. Supported and encouraged by Sayyid Muhammad Isfahani, Mirza Yahya started a systematic campaign to discredit and undermine Baha'u'llah. The fourth key point, the evil alliance between Sayyid Muhammad Isfahani and Mirza Yahya had a devastating impact on the life of Baha'u'llah and his well-being. And the fifth key point, deeply saddened by the atmosphere of disunity created by Mirza Yahya, His Holiness Baha'u'llah decided to retire to the mountains of Sulaymaniyeh in Kurdistan. In paragraph 276, His Holiness Baha'u'llah counsels the Babis not to mistreat the promised one of the Bab, he whom God shall make manifest at the time of Mustaghas, and not to inflict upon him what was inflicted upon the Bab. Despite his pleas, His Holiness Baha'u'llah foresees opposition against the one designated as he whom God shall make manifest, in particular from 2 specific individuals: a one-eyed man who would rise against him, and one who will arise to assail the very root of the divine tree and endeavor to the uttermost of his power to resist and oppose him. And in this paragraph, His Holiness Baha'u'llah implies that he is the promised one, as he explicitly states that the one-eyed man is arising with the utmost malevolence against us. Adib Taherzadeh assumes that Sayyid Muhammad Isfahani is the one-eyed man, and we find this reference in Adib Taherzadeh's book, The Covenant of Baha'u'llah, page 65. However, Mr. Hooper Dunbar suggests that the one-eyed man is a reference to the ambitious and hypocritical Haji Mirza Karim Khan, mentioned by Baha'u'llah in paragraph 203. And we find that reference in Mr. Hooper Dunbar's book, A Companion to the Study of the Kitab-i-Iqan. Mentioned by Baha'u'llah in paragraph 203. There is more information provided in an earlier section on Haji Mirza Karim Khan. The second individual could be Mirza Yahya, the half-brother of Baha'u'llah, who at the instigation of Sayyid Muhammad arose against Baha'u'llah and opposed his cause. However, no authoritative sources have been identified to confirm these suggestions. The evil alliance between Sayyid Muhammad Isfahani and Mirza Yahya had a devastating impact on the life of Baha'u'llah and his well-being. We're going to share with you the nature and severity of the hostility shown by these two individuals, as foreshadowed by Baha'u'llah, and we'll address the severity of the hostility of these individuals. The first we'll address is Mirza Yahya. Mirza Yahya, known as Subh Azal, was the younger, by 13 years, half-brother of His Holiness Baha'u'llah. He was raised under the care of Baha'u'llah at the time of the declaration of the Bab. Mirza Yahya was 13 years old. Baha'u'llah assisted him to recognize the station of the Bab and to embrace his cause. Mirza Yahya was nominated by the Bab in his teens to serve as the figurehead leader for the Baha'i community until the manifestation of He whom God shall make manifest. This appointment occurred on the advice of Baha'u'llah to divert attention from him whose fame had spread far and wide. However, at this critical time when the Babis were under severe persecutions and martyrdom, Mirza Yahya went into hiding and did not provide any leadership or support to the Baha'i community. According to Adib Tarzadeh, he spent most of this time in hiding. He was a fugitive, frightened, and roaming around the countryside in disguise so that no one could contact him. And friends, we find this reference in Adib Tarzadeh's book, The Covenant of Baha'u'llah, page 65. He changed his identity and appearance a number of times and asked the Babis not to reveal his identity or whereabouts. Mirza Yahya went into hiding in the mountains of Mazandaran at the time of the execution of the Bab. In 1853 AD, he escaped from Iran and joined Baha'u'llah in Baghdad. He betrayed the trust of the Bab by claiming to be his successor. For this reason, the beloved guardian Shoghi Effendi describes him as the archbreaker of the covenant of the Bab. We find that in God Passes By, page 164. In Adrianople, His Holiness Baha'u'llah declared his station directly to Mirza Yahya. Instead of acceptance, Mirza Yahya claimed to have received an independent revelation from God. Although initially some people followed Mirza Yahya, the majority eventually rejected him. Mirza Yahya died in Cyprus in 1912. The second one of these individuals that showed immense hostility and severity towards Baha'u'llah was Sayyid Muhammad Isfahani. In the early days of the ministry of the Bab, Sayyid Muhammad was a student at a theological school in Isfahan, a city near Shiraz. However, he was expelled because of his deplorable conduct. He then learnt of the Bab and embraced his faith. He later went to Karbala, where he joined the ranks of the believers. Sayyid Muhammad was notorious for his inordinate ambition, his blind obstinacy, and uncontrollable jealousy. And friends, we find this reference in the beloved Guardian's book, God Passes By, page 112. He allied himself with Mirza Yahya against Baha'u'llah and induced Mirza Yahya to claim prophethood for himself. The beloved Guardian Shoghi Effendi refers to Sayyid Muhammad as the black-hearted scoundrel who befooled and manipulated this vain and flaccid man, Mirza Yahya, with consummate skill and unyielding persistence. To him, Baha'u'llah had later referred in the Kitáb-i-Iqán as the one who had led astray Mirza Yahya, and stigmatized him in one of his tablets as the source of envy and the quintessence of mischief. While Abdul Baha had described the relationship existing between these two as that of the sucking child to the much prized breast of its mother. And friends, we find this reference in God Passes By, page 112 through 113. Although a follower of Yahya, Sayyid Muhammad was sent with the Baha'is to Akka, where he continued to plot against Baha'u'llah. This resulted in his murder by 7 Baha'is and further oppression against Baha'u'llah. In this regard, the beloved Guardian writes, though he himself had stringently forbidden his followers on several occasions, both verbally and in writing, any retaliatory acts against their tormentors, and had even sent back to Beirut an irresponsible Arab convert who had meditated avenging the wrong suffered by his beloved leader, 7 of the companions clandestinely sought out and slew 3 of their persecutors, among whom were Sayyid Muhammad and Agha Jan. The consternation that seized an already oppressed community was indescribable. Baha'u'llah's indignation knew no bounds. Were we, he thus voices his emotions in a tablet revealed shortly after this act had been committed, to make mention of what befell us, the heavens would be rent asunder, and the mountains would crumble. My captivity, he wrote on another occasion, cannot harm me. That which can harm me is the conduct of those who love me, who claim to be related to me, and yet perpetuate what causeth my heart and my pen to groan. And friends, this was from the beloved Guardian, God Passes By, page 189 through 190. The beloved Guardian has given Sayyid Muhammad Isfahani the title of the Antichrist of the Baha'i revelation. And as I mentioned, this is in the God Passes By, page 189 through 190, for his evil and persistent opposition to Baha'u'llah. Baha'u'llah has called him the embodiment of a wickedness and impiety the prime mover of mischief, and one accursed of God. And that was from Adib Tarzad, The Covenant of Baha'u'llah, page 65. In paragraphs 277 through 279, His Holiness Baha'u'llah recounts the sufferings that Mirza Yahya and Sayyid Muhammad inflicted upon him in Baghdad. He describes the diffusion of such odors of jealousy as unprecedented from the beginning of the foundation of the world. This is a reference to the intense envy that Mirza Yahya showed towards Baha'u'llah. As time passed, the Baha'i community became dissatisfied with Mirza Yahya because of his withdrawal from the community, poor leadership, indecisive nature, and lack of action. In contrast, many people started to approach His Holiness Baha'u'llah for his guidance. Baha'u'llah was always available for people who wanted to visit him. He established a network of communications linking the Baha'i communities in Iraq and Iran. This gave a new vitality to the community and transformed it into a cohesive religious group. The reputation of Mirza Yahya was reduced to the extent that some well-known Babis challenged his leadership and rejected his claim to be the successor of the Bab. The resentment and opposition to him strengthened when his behavior was compared with the obvious and strong signs of the spiritual superiority of Baha'u'llah. For example, the Babis found the writings of Baha'u'llah inspiring, deep, and profound, contrary to the commentaries of Mirza Yahya that proved to be inadequate and shallow. The rising prestige of His Holiness Baha'u'llah distressed Mirza Yahya and created in him a deep feeling of jealousy towards his brother. Supported and encouraged by Sayyid Muhammad Isfahani, Mirza Yahya started a systematic campaign to discredit and undermine Baha'u'llah. Deeply saddened by the atmosphere of disunity created by Mirza Yahya, His Holiness Baha'u'llah decided to retire to the mountains of Sulaymaniyeh in Kurdistan, as described in paragraph 278. He left on the morning of April 10th, 1854, without informing the household. The only person who accompanied His Holiness Baha'u'llah was a Muslim called Abul Qasim Hamadani. However, he did not stay with Baha'u'llah, only visiting him occasionally. In order to hide his identity, Baha'u'llah took on the appearance of a dervish and assumed the name Darvish Muhammad. For the first year, he lived on a mountain called Sargulu, which is about a 3-day walk from Sulaymaniyeh. During this period, Baha'u'llah was very distressed. In addition to the account provided in paragraph 278, Baha'u'llah describes the intensity of his anguish in a tablet revealed for his cousin Mariam. After his return, he states, "Traveling in such wise that in my exile every eye wept sore over me, and all created things shed tears of blood because of my anguish. The birds of the air were my companions, and the beasts of the field are my associates." And friends, we find this was from Baha'u'llah, cited by Shoghi Effendi in God Passes By, page 120. After a while, Sheikh Ismail, the leader of the mystic Naqshbandi Sufi group, met Baha'u'llah and was so attracted to him that he persuaded Baha'u'llah to move to the city of Sulaymaniyeh. Initially, no one was aware of the wisdom and station of Baha'u'llah. However, it did not take long for the seminary and the people of the town to become aware of the penmanship and the knowledge of Baha'u'llah and of his true nature. During the absence of Baha'u'llah, the condition of the Baha'i community deteriorated further due to the lack of proper leadership. His family were so distressed that they eventually asked Mirza Musa, the brother of Baha'u'llah, to find him and beg for his return. At that time, the news and fame of Darwish Muhammad from Iran had reached the family of Baha'u'llah in Baghdad. They were convinced that Darwish Muhammad was in fact Baha'u'llah. Mirza Musa asked his Arab father-in-law, Sheikh Sultan, to locate Baha'u'llah and bring him back to Baghdad. It took Sheikh Sultan about 2 months to find Baha'u'llah. After some time, Baha'u'llah finally agreed to return to Baghdad. He arrived in the city on March 9th, 1856.